All right, welcome back to the show. Today I've got Bree Hartman, who it's been a little while, but it's good to catch up. Bree, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, John. I'm really excited to be here because you know what? I do have to say this. I heard John's podcast a long time ago, probably like 5 years ago. And this is when you first bought three storage facilities. And I reached out to you and you wrote the nicest message to me. So I just want to say I feel like full circle being able to come on here and talk about storage and entrepreneurship and all the business things.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us your, 30-second who you are, what you're doing right now.
I love it. Well, I had 9 lives, so I'll keep it nice and short though. So Bree Hartman, I live up in Sacramento, California. I had a lot of pivots. So I would say like 9 lives, but up in Sacramento, I worked for the state, so Fish and Wildlife for 7 years. Mm-hmm. I was a field biologist that then turned into, wow, I'm an entrepreneur, and the state does not like when you make things better and more efficient. So I went back to school, got my nutritionist and personal training degree, and then went out and opened up a gym. And so owned a gym for 5 years, and then made it through COVID. And then after that, got pregnant. And I was like, you know what? I created my worst fear, literally created your own prison, because I was working 70 hours a week, from 5 a.m. all the way up till 7 p.m. at night. And I think that was the deciding factor, is like that pain was so like, I was like, I don't know what to do. And so ironically, I had one accidental rental, which was, you buy your primary home and then you go buy another house and you're like, well, I guess I'll rent it out. And so that actually led to, painting every single room. And we had a service dog that came in about 7 months in that did $7,000 of baseboard damage. We had black mold scare in California, which is just mildew, but the education factor. And so I think hearing a podcast about, no toilets, no tenants, no employees, less problems, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the vehicle. So I woke up at like 2 a.m. in the morning and researched it for like about 2 hours and bought a $2,000 ticket to go to Vegas to hear all about self-storage at one of the conferences. And since then came back and I was like, Gary Keller says, like, your one thing, like if you had one thing, what would you do? Well, I was pregnant. I taught myself how to underwrite storage deals. And my goal was to buy one before the baby came. So that's a little bit of the story. And the laugh, because, humor is it really a part of parenthood, is the laugh was, is the baby going to come first, or is the storage facility going to come first in our family? And actually the storage facility came first and then the baby came 6 weeks later. And so after that, it's just been full steam ahead. So that's my story, I guess, in a little bit of a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and you've got a storage community too right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So founder of the self-storage school. And I think once being, a personal trainer and a coach, I love coaching. And I think that was my biggest thing, is I love it because, real estate, like you said, I think in one of your podcasts can get into, it's the same thing over and over again. But what I love about coaching and being the founder of the self-storage school is that you get to actually like learn it yourself, go out there, take a lot of action, fall on your face, and then go teach it. And if you can do all 3 of those things, I feel like that's when you've mastered it, and it keeps you in the game. So that's something that I put near and dear to my heart. And we're up to 40 students right now. And awesome. three of them are under contract, which is really exciting. So
that's awesome. And we were talking offline before we got on the show, but it's a lot of work, dealing with different personalities and different way people learn and all those things. It's a lot of work. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And wouldn't have it any other way. So it's been I always say in storage, like I was just actually in Greece and Croatia. And that was like the first time I've done an international trip in 10 years, which is wild. And so if you own a business, you're an entrepreneur, you go, right, do your vacation and just pray that nothing breaks or nothing like lights on fire. But other than that, it's being able to, find yourself. Like I never thought in my wildest dreams that I was going to be a personal trainer to then own a storage facility and then own multi-million dollars in storage, and still be hungry. You know what I mean? To go out there to find those deals that are the mom and pops, negotiate them, decrease your risk, right? And then go and scale that so that you can have a remotely managed facilities like portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So I wanted to ask, you said you've got 9 lives, and you've done several pivots. What's like one commonality between those pivots? What happened to where it's like, all right, I've been doing this for a little while. Let's change direction and go to something different. What's like one or two commonalities on why you did it and then how? Because I think that's a lot of people's problems. Not just getting into real estate or getting into something entrepreneurial, but then people I think have trouble after that too. So give us some feedback there.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny because I think, pivots are always throughout our lives. Like as we get older, the whole goal in even like finding like your partner in life is to find out more about yourself, and grow, right? And so I think, especially as humans, like that is something that is so deeply in our heart. And there's this, in certain people, there's more so, right? There's this like deep desire of wanting more or wanting to do more and grow and see, being very curious about things. And so I always laugh because my mom would call me an abnormal learner in a good way, where I was that kid that asked why, like, why? Well, why? Like my 3-year-old right now. And I'm like, I love you so much for asking why. But I think from there, it's like, okay, well, you can ask why, but then what is that? What are those next steps, like you said, to taking massive action and actually doing it? And honestly, I love this. And I think that's the excitement of our life is the journey. And everyone calls this, they can get, if you talk about mindset, it's called destination happiness, where everyone wants to, or destination it's a destination hangover, where they want to get to the destination without having to go through all the ups and downs. And so I think and that's the part of life. It's going to be 50-50. It's going to be hard, but I think it's kind of this enjoyment too of like, can I do it? It's that puzzle piece of, hey, how can we figure out these puzzles here? Who do we get to meet in between? And then, who is that person that you get to transform into that you bet on yourself? Like, that's the biggest thing is like, John, I know for you, 7 facilities and who knows how fast, right? I think that's the biggest thing is the confidence to bet on yourself, to go all in, knowing that you could fail. And that is the name of the game as a business owner, right? Like our goal, and even storage as an investor, is that we go from 0% confidence, it's a deal, like day one, to, okay, about 50% confidence it's a deal with back of the napkin. And then we go from, okay, how do we supply and demand and competition in any business, right? Then we get to 65, and then we get into like maybe 80. That's the sweet spot. And then you shoot your arrow and try to hit like 5. We will always be 20%. Like we won't know, like there will be an unknown there. Yeah. And I think most people try to wait to get to 100% because it's learning. I don't know what I don't know. I'm scared. What if I fail and make a multi-million-dollar mistake, and they never shoot that arrow? And so at that point, you've already failed from day one. And I listened to your 100 podcast episode, and consistency over time, and then also betting on yourself. And I think that is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because it's scary. It's not fun. We call it in biology, if you're a caterpillar and you're going to go into a cocoon to a beautiful butterfly, it's called the green goose stage. No one loves the green goose stage, right? But they want to be the butterfly. So that's what I would say. Sorry, I went into deep metaphors.
No, that's great stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's awesome stuff. Do you think people are afraid of who they might become, and that's why? Or do you think it's the work?
No, I think it's both. I think they're afraid in the success, right? And I'm going through this right now as I'm like growing and transforming. And I've had to let go of relationships that weren't serving me. And I've had to sacrifice things and say no to, friends that say, hey, do you want to come hang out? And I'm like, actually, tonight I'm doing a webinar, just for an hour. But I get to start later in my day. And so, I think this growth is, and I like to call it, people are used to instant gratification sometimes in business, but what if you could learn one skill set and it's not instant gratification, it's like, hey, if I gave you the marshmallow as that like 10-year-old kid in this like experiment, would you eat it now or would you eat it a year later? If you were, if you might get something in return. And I think commercial real estate is exactly that. And for people who are trying to jump from residential, who are used to closing a residential house that might be only $100,000 within 15 to 30 days, that's great. That's instant gratification. That's happiness, right? But in commercial, it could take you 6 to 9 to 18 months to find and buy your first deal. And most people stop at 6 months or even sooner, right? Because it wasn't a gratification that came about it. But I think you and me know that it wasn't the storage deal. It's not about the storage deal. It's about the owner, the business owner that you become, the entrepreneur, and all those skill sets that you gained on that first facility to go buy a second one, to go buy a third, to buy 10 in a portfolio. So
you sound like a very intentional person. Like I'm just listening to all this and I love these conversations, but I think a lot of people too, like everything you hit on, but I think a lot of people too don't know where they're going. They don't know, and maybe they don't even want to look at what they're going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Sounds like you're very intentional. Do you have like visions or goals of what your life may look like 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Yeah. So I was like, man, that's even far from me. But I do. I think it's setting like quarterly, like setting goals and then being like, I think what I learned, and normally people say you have multiple businesses before you find like the one, just like in a relationship, right? You date multiple people that aren't the one, and then you find it and you're like, yes, now let's go. Let's light it on fire. But I do think that I learned in the first couple of businesses, like I did it the wrong way. Like I did it, very similar, like solopreneur, doing it all yourself, not hiring anyone, not delegating. And so I think with my intentionality in this realm, it's always been, I want to show my daughter what's possible, which she's 3 years old. She's a female. And I think that is something that's deep within me as a why. And to have an abnormal life, right? To teach entrepreneurship. Like I want to be the mom that like at age 5 or 6, she's not putting quarters in the gumball machine. We bought a gumball machine. We're putting it in a pizzeria and she's getting the margin, right? And the vending machine, I want to do that. And so setting up, reverse engineering and being very intentional about not just buying yourself, like we talked about offline, another job, but, how can we recreate this with knowing what we don't want, which I've had 9 lives, so I do know what I don't want now, and being older too and wise, and then going and being unapologetic about that. And so I do want to say, without going deep, you're going to laugh. I think I have it over here. On this 2-week vacation in Greece and Croatia, my best friend from college, she sleeps in. She loves her sleep, and I get up, have my coffee. I created a chat GPT bot that I put in my filters of how to say no. Because it's not about saying, I've been a yes person for so long. Now it's about, what do you say no to? Because you've got your inner circle defined, you've got your middle circle of what's important to you, and then you've got your outer circle of what actually sucks your energy from. And so I now am nerdy, and I have this, it's called the acronym of CLEAR, but I have this filter of like, if it doesn't pass my CLEAR filter, it's a no, it's an automatic no. So that is what I am practicing right now. I'm not great at it. I overbook myself all the time. And, and that's something that, I think as a business owner, you constantly are perfecting so that you can have family time, you can have balance, and you can have that abnormal life and not go through burnout. But I do want to say there is a period of time that, in a season of time, that you will need to work the hardest. Like you will need to put the work in and go through that goo phase and put your head down, underwrite deals, get hung up on and fall on your face and have to call a million people and ask, hey, can I have a little bit of help? And that's, or even a coach, anything like that. So I do think that is something that you got to have in your back pocket, and
Yep.
that's understand. Yeah.
No, completely agree. Well, it sounds like you're obviously intentional. It sounds like you're a grinder too. Do you have, I don't want to say trouble, but are you always on? Like, is it hard for you to just stop and kind of relax and enjoy family time? You said you're just on vacation for 2 weeks. Is it hard for you to kind of unplug and get out of that kind of grind mindset?
Yeah, yes, I absolutely. And if anyone said, no, I'm great at it, I think they'd be lying to you.
Right.
And I think just being like a type A person, right? Like your mind is always like asking why. Well, okay, well then, how do you figure this out, right? How do you put together the puzzle pieces? But I've had to be very intentional with, like even my daughter, being able to put her in daycare. I love having slow mornings with her. Like my definition of success is if I can lay my head down on my pillow and feel great about it. Like I don't have this like, oh my gosh, I have my whole family in this huge risk bundle. And then also being able to have slow mornings and not start till 10 a.m. in the morning. Like that's success. No matter like how multi-million dollars you own, like that's the flexibility that I want, in my life. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I do struggle. And I think that I have to go back to the drawing board every month, every quarter. And that's why I also have coaches. I've hired 2 coaches to help me with mindset. And I've had friends also that say, hey, Bree, like I haven't heard back from you in 3 days, like we need to slow down a little bit. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, to hear that. But at the same time, being able to be, yeah, I do. And then make it happen,
So, and I'm asking this, and I've asked some other people too, because I think this is like you said, a commonality, especially with entrepreneurs. But you were just gone for 2 weeks, and actually, we just were on vacation. What is this? It was last week, and I've found that usually day 2, maybe day 3, I can find like a new routine, kind of, and I try to stick to my somewhat the same routine. That's somewhat help, but no matter where you are, it's going to be a different routine. So what things do you do and how long does it take to kind of adjust and to be able to enjoy yourself? And especially like we'll use your vacation, for example. What did you do to really be fully there with your family?
Yeah. And so, and actually this is the first time I've done it was not a family vacation. It was just me and my best friend from college. And
Nice.
so had not penciled that time for that exploration in years. And so it was really fun to do that. And I would say, yeah, I agree with you, like 2 to 3 days. But I think you were an engineer. I laugh because I come from a family of like 4 engineers, and they're like all like boom, like A, B, C. Well, I'm the person like A through Z, and let's just mess it up a little bit, and I'm fine with that. So it's so funny. I wouldn't say I struggle with just if I'm out and I'm like, hey, I'm out of my office and I'm out in what I've been doing, even on the weekend, I feel like I can kind of just like, hey, it's the weekend. Sorry. If it's not that important. Like storage is not that important. You know what I mean? If something happens, that's why I love the asset class. Is that, I'm like, if it's not within this time, I can answer that call on Monday, or I can have my assistant answer that call. And so I really think it's not even it's letting go. I think it's the work of delegating, and that comes with scaling, asking for help, and then at some point you got to surrender. You just got to surrender, and it's like, yeah, it's going to get a little messy, and that's okay. And I feel like in motherhood, that was the first lesson in motherhood that I learned. Is, I thought I was going to have this perfect birth, and I was doing sled pushes for like 36 weeks. And I had a C-section, I had a doula. I did everything. I had two, trying to manually turn her. She was breached, head up. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna surrender, and it's just gonna go how it's gonna go. And I think that really helped me be like, yes, we can visualize and imagine what we want. Absolutely. And then at some point, you just got to let it go and go with the flow. So.
That's great advice. Let it go and go with the flow. And I tried. That's what I usually by like day 2 or 3 on vacation, I can usually convince myself of that. But it's tough getting there. What's
Yeah.
your and I just thought about this, but what's your like for your storage business?
Mhm.
What's your team look like?
Yeah.
And you don't have to go through it like if you got a bunch, but just general roles, responsibilities, and then what's your role and responsibilities in your storage business?
Yeah. So I love that storage you can divide and conquer. So I actually have two business partners. And so in our first deal actually is so we actually have a third party management manage it because we decided to go bigger. So this is a 60,000 square foot facility. And that was we took it down with an SBA loan and decided that you know what I would rather go out there and use my time to go buy others. And then kind of put that management in place. So, in that category, the first one for sure is we have a third party, but within that, our roles, it's like, yeah, you have a third party, but you got to manage the third party.
Yep.
Right. And so that's the biggest thing. And you have to do it in a way where you're not overly controlling because you can get fired from a third party, just FYI.
Yep.
And so releasing control, right, as a business owner. And so we divide and conquer every 2 weeks, we jump on a call and, we're looking at the ins, the outs, the bank account. Um, and then my role is really to help with acquisitions. And so that's my sweet spot. But in a couple of the other properties, we do have it more DIY, but we do have a call center, right? So a call center that we train on our particular facility. And then we also have a boots on the ground within that certain area in that market that they do about 15 hours a week. And so I would say my two other business partners are really good with a lot of the operations. And again, my role is acquisitions. So I am actually spending about 20-30% of my time currently during the week, building out our CRM. I do have 3 virtual assistants, cold calling storage owners. And then what I do is I take those warm calls and negotiate, talk with them, submit a 3-part offer, and then kind of go from there. Either we'll wholesale a deal or we'll actually take one down. And so we love taking, it's like the good deals down that that you're like, yeah, this is a value add all day long. I call it JMM, just make money. And then there is few that, because you've got a pipeline, which is your source of power, right? You can also take that and wholesale it to someone else and collect a fee. So we actually just wholesaled a deal in South Carolina. Man, I've never been so 50-50 on this deal. Wanted to buy it. And, I was 50-50. And when you have someone else as a money partner coming in, you're even more protected with their money than yours. And so because I couldn't get past the 50% confidence, it's a deal because of some of the extra capital expenditures that I think that were going to be needed. We ended up wholesaling it, but it was such a good deal. You're going to drool. But we ended up, and we collected $100,000 wholesale sell fee. But talk about 6-7 months of work. So the deal was about 45,000 square feet of storage with some expandable land. Hear this, $3 million was the purchase price, 0% interest over a 10-year balloon with no prepayment penalty and about $70,000 down because he needed to pay $600,000 off and he pocketed $100,000. So that person came away with a solid cash flowing deal. Which is wild. So I am going to keep my eye on it. And I know this person is going to do probably really well. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to ask because there's not a ton of people that we have on that, at least that have full blown third party management. Most of us usually have call centers in house, management in house, or at best third party call center. Has it helped owning other storage facilities? And obviously you're in acquisitions, but I'm sure you probably get some of the feedback with operations. Has it helped owning your own and managing your own and then being able to kind of communicate and manage the third party manager?
Absolutely. Hands down, night and day difference. And I'm just going to tell you an example. I am also a little detailed oriented. And so I actually will cold call our facilities. I will secret shop our facilities to hear how well the salespeople are answering the calls. Are they answering the calls? Will they call me back? And then are they selling me on that call? Because sales, you guys, is so key in any business in general. And I had 3 secret calls and they were all awful. I recorded them and had to take those recordings, and have a conversation like, hey, this isn't working right here. What can we do? Right. Like, what kind of training, what can we do to help this? So I do think that, but in the end, we are so happy to have a third party and they do a fantastic job. And it's because of the communication. It's because they're scaling, I think, correctly. And it's not, one of the ones that I think normal people use. It's a boutique one. But I love that they're open to feedback and they actually change it. You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing. And I do think that releasing control, and if you can have a facility that makes enough money, right, to still cash flow with a third party, why not? Right? They're going to make you more money. It's going to keep it cleaner and easier. And they are going to bundle these tech stacks to make it cheaper, right? So that you can go take that time and either spend it with your family or acquire more facilities. And if you do the calculations and really nerd out, what is your time worth? And I think that is something that, we were able to see from, I think, a very beginning, that a lot of people have a hard time to release that control. So,
Yeah. No, 100%. No, that's great information. You brought up earlier AI. Curious, what AI do you use just overall in business life, everything?
Yeah. So I love that you're talking about. I was literally going to ask you the same question. And so AI. So have you heard Swivel? Have you looked at Swivel?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to the ISS Inside Self Storage conference this past year, and we're actually trying this out on a facility. But Swivel is a storage AI. This is, I think, one of the first ones coming out. I'm sure there'll be many more. But what they do is it's a bot for your store. So they'll learn your store. They'll learn everything about it. You can embed it in your website as well as your call team. And so this is how we're going to use it, is that in these calls, they can hear like, what are the key terms that the customer is wanting, what product type. So they pattern recognition. Oh, hey, what are they not liking? Which could be like insulations falling down on a few different walls, which we've had to fix multiple times in our older facilities. And so we would know that like faster. And then another big thing was we had someone living in one of our units in one of our more rural area facilities. We didn't know that for a month and a half. We don't have, and so this is like, which is wild. And so as an owner, that's a big no-no, because customer service, reviews, and, on your property, I'm sure they're peeing and pooping everywhere. Who knows, right? That's disgusting. And so this AI tool is going to be used to, I think, being able to monitor these sales calls better, pick out what product type they're using, how can we improve on our sales team, what training do they need, and then number 4, become aware of the things that we need to fix faster. And so I really think that this tool is going to revolutionize like how, as an owner, especially with remote management, how we can have better customer service and really pick out some of these key things to focus on. Because as you know, storage is, has been 10 years behind, and, some of these businesses with technology. And I think that especially where we are at right now in this market, which is, occupancy isn't that great right now in some markets, right? We've got a 5-year balloons coming up on some of these loans maturing. We've got a lot of these different risks that were not present in 2020. And I think that we have to be on our game with customer service now and moving forward. And it's unexcusable as more sophisticated owners get into the scene. If you can be the first one, you're going to only get better brand recognition within that community, and then from there set yourself up for success. So that's where I think within AI, that's how we're going to use it right now. I mean, AI in general, I use it every day. I'm using it. Oh my gosh, on the way here, I was like, give me John's 5 best podcasts. I want to listen to the top 5, right? But like text messages. I send my friends text messages that would have taken me hours to write. Emails, using it in my business to build automation. My goal is I'd love to hire someone that just does AI technology for my business. And so I think that's where we're at right now in this stage is people are scared about it. And you ask them, they're scared for their jobs. They're scared for, are they watching me? No, everyone already knows what you're up to. I could find your name, your number on the internet in like 2 seconds. So, but I do think the people that learn it and then learn, have a skill set and then utilize it are going to be the ones that have a competitive advantage. And lastly, because I have a lot of opinions, you can tell I'm sassy. But in business, if you really just chalk it down to this raw, what is business? Okay, it solves one problem. People will pay for it to solve this problem. And then number 2, as a business owner, it's always about, okay, how can we add more revenue streams? Can we increase net operating income? And then the best thing where I think AI is going to come in and help is how do we decrease expenses? And as a business owner, every single month, we're looking at our P&Ls, we're looking at our bank account. What do we don't need? And if you're not in there looking at your bank account and all these subscriptions that add up to X, Y, and Z, which I know we all are, how do I say that, victim to this, your bottom line is going to be affected. So I do think as a business owner, AI will help decrease expenses and also help increase net operating income coming in for the future. So
yeah, no, I agree. Well, yeah, and some of it can be scary. I think us in real estate are relatively safe. But I think
kind of, because what I'm nervous is same thing, pattern recognitions, REITs can get this and, have a little bit of a competitive advantage. Sometimes these mom and pops like us, that own, a few different facilities. So
yeah. I think like what you said, you're spot on, is people that will start using it and adapt to it sooner and faster are the ones that will take off quicker, obviously, and gain the most from it. But I mean, it's obviously gonna take some jobs, but we'll adjust as a society. But I think people don't even understand AI at this point, because you just brought up Swivel. I think most people, when you say AI, I think most people think either Chat GPT or robots, right? It's like one of those 2 things. And it's way more than that. And it's even like the thing Swivel, it sounds like it's listening to phone calls and it's picking up issues. So it's basically doing busy work. And I've kind of got our district manager spot checking that stuff, right? She would love to not do that stuff, I'm sure. Because she's basically spot checking calls and in a way grading our reps, but she doesn't have time to go through and collect all the data that something like Swivel can. So I think it's just going to maximize everything, right? Even though that may take a responsibility away from my district manager, it'll give her more time
to do
other more important things that move the needle more.
Hands down. I fully agree. And so I'm actually really excited as a business owner about this. And I'm gonna say something maybe a little controversial. Hopefully it triggers some people. But I do think, okay, good. I do think that moving forward, I do think that W-2 employees are going to be the ones at risk with this. And I think business owners are going to come out on top. And so this transition right now, where we've got a lot of baby boomers in this world, and I talk to them daily on, just wanting to get out and buying their facility. And so we actually, being an owner, buying a business like you wanted to too, like, and in multiple capacities as an entrepreneur, like you are safeguarding your career, your cash flowing assets, and being able to decrease expenses. Like this is a win for us all day long in the business world. Now in the W-2 world, that isn't a win, in some capacities. We will see, I think in the next 10 to 15, 20 years, the businesses that don't implement AI, and also the businesses that don't make it, because of X, Y, and Z, and the jobs that decrease from that. And so I'm putting all these thoughts together as we speak. So I guess like my biggest thing is right now is with this people being unsure, and people wanting to make that jump into storage or buying a business in general, is like, this is the time. Like this, it's buy time right now. And yeah, it's scary, like we talked about, to bet on yourself and put all your eggs in one basket. But in the end, will you look back and ask this question? If I bought a business, would I be sad about it like 5 years later? No one would probably be sad about it. You know what I mean? Unless you did it wrong, obviously. But like, if nothing changed with my current W-2, which I know people are hustling to keep their W-2s, what would you be, what would you regret if you didn't do X? Is that question. And I always ask myself, like, if I didn't make this jump to start storage school, would I regret it, 5 years later? And I'm like, absolutely. Because I had such a calling like in my heart, to do it. And I think that's the question that you've got to ask yourself, is knowing, where the economy is going, where we're going, obviously keeping your W-2 absolutely until you buy your first facility is a yes, security, absolutely. But, looking at the future, where can we go with buying businesses? And I think it's only going to capitalize and help us later on.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I think there's been a movement for people to become entrepreneurs over the past, I don't know, definitely since COVID, but probably 5-10 years. And AI is probably going to push that even further, because there will be, without a doubt, W-2 jobs that are lost. Now, I do think like there are people on my team, there's no way I could replace those for this foreseeable future, and nor would I want to. But they're definitely, I guess, smaller positions, entry-level positions that AI is going to replace, right? And that's a good thing, I think, for everybody. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to help business owners, and it's probably going to push more people to become business owners, which I think is a cool thing.
Yeah, hands down.
Cool. Well, we covered a lot of ground here. You got through a ton of stuff, ton of valuable information. This was absolutely awesome. If anyone wants to reach out to you, obviously you've got your storage community. People want to reach out to you, questions, or find out more about that, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm always on Instagram. That's me. So definitely come over, say hi. So it's just Bree, BREE .the investor. And then also, I just wanted for your audience, I definitely want to give you guys just like 2 free resources that I don't give everyone. These are something actually I just created, which is awesome. So one of them is an underwriting tool set that you can actually create offers and send to a broker like immediately. And then the other tool set is a 4-page like PDF on like, how do you actually evaluate a storage deal, and how do you say yes, no, or a number within 10 minutes. So if anyone wants that, just mention, the podcast, and then also put storage, just say the word storage and your first and last name to 916-579-7209. And just text me that and I will send it directly to you. So yeah, just really excited that, we got to touch base finally. We got to do this more. Yeah. And, just thank you so much for such a great conversation. So if anyone is interested in buying or finding their first facility, definitely come talk about the self-storage school or have a conversation with me, and love to have you join us.
That's awesome. Very generous. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.